Well, hello, y'all. Welcome to week 5. Can you believe that it is the last week of our class? I just wanted to start off this lecture by saying how much I've enjoyed getting to know each one of you. It has been a pleasure. I've loved interacting with you on the group discussion board. And you never know, we might see each other in future classes, and that would be exciting. So thank you so much for your participation in this class. Like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We are going to do some weekly lectures at this point. Of course, we're going to recap on week 4, and since y'all won't be here next week, we're going to do a brief overview of week 5 too. Now, of course, these lectures are going to be similar in that we're not going to go by the book line by line, and so that information that I offer even for week 5 is going to be slightly different, or my twist on it, so that you're not feeling like it's redundant. So we'll go ahead and jump right into week 4, and we're going to kind of recap over the group discussion board, which was, of course, on the differences in interventions between children and adolescents versus adults, and that is a very, very fun discussion. Crisis with adolescents seems to be the area that I have spent a significant amount of my professional time in, both on a volunteer and a non-volunteer basis. As y'all know, I worked with a community mental health center, and we did crisis for adolescents. While we did family services, really our primary client was the youth. And so in that, just the way that the program was structured, of course, most of it was crisis calls. And so I have had a lot of opportunities to deal with youth and a lot of children also through that program. And then, of course, I spent many years working as a youth director. And in doing so, obviously was allowed very significant experiences within trauma in adolescence and within the family as a whole. So we are just going to kind of talk a little bit about what is it that we can do as therapists to help an adolescent or a child go through a crisis moment. And I'm going to actually lump them together, children and adolescents. Many of the things that we talk about are going to work for both. And then there'll be a little section at the end where we talk specifically about adolescents in particular. So when we're working with adolescents or children, one of the things that we can do as therapists is start to give them a vocabulary for their emotions. Oftentimes when we grow up, this is all of us, it doesn't necessarily matter what type of family we come from, we are not often taught a vocabulary of our emotions. We know the words good or bad or happy or sad or angry. We might even know what it means to feel hurt. But oftentimes we are not given the opportunity to explore further emotions. What is it like to not just feel scared, but to feel fear and to experience anxiety and some of those sorts of things? What's the difference between anger and rage? What's the difference between bliss and happiness? Those sorts of things. And so one of our jobs that we can do as therapists is to give our clients who are adolescents and children, and sometimes even adults, but give them a greater vocabulary to explain their emotions. Help them to understand that the experience that they had was not simply bad, but that it was scary, that they were confused, that they maybe felt embarrassed, that they felt ashamed or guilty. Some of those sorts of things. And what that does is it allows them to greater tell their story as well as understand their story, to understand that these are the things that they were feeling and these are the things that they need to process through. So that is just giving them a kind of an expansive view of what their emotions are. And of course, there's many, many different ways to do that. Sometimes I like to play games with adolescents and children, especially when they've been in trauma situations, games that would allow them to expand their vocabulary. It might be getting a Jenga game, where you build the blocks and you pull them out and make stacks, and writing a different emotion on each different Jenga piece. And when they pull the block, they've got to talk about what is that emotion. What might somebody look like who's experiencing that emotion? What are some other emotions that are attached to that? When are times that they have felt that? So what we're doing is we're giving them a broader, more expanded view of what their emotions might be, and then they're able to greater process through their story.